K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Diehard Football Podcast. We are back. I am here with Dirk. How you doing today?
Oh, doing good. Just hanging out, and we're gonna get ready to talk some football here.
We are. There's a lot of interesting topics, and one we're going to cover right now is about some transactions that went down the last few days. One of them was in Washington, where they released Ryan Kerrigan, or not released, but traded him traded him to the Philadelphia Eagles. So, I mean, what do you think of that? Do you think that was a bad move for Washington, or a good move? Because he was a good player.
Yeah, well, it definitely helps Philadelphia. Washington has a strong defense. That's their best attribute, and I would almost say it works out even for both, because I mean, he's a really good player, made the Pro Bowl a few times. He was a pain in the Cowboys' butt, and, he was really good. But I don't think, because they've been drafting heavy, defense for a few years. They got a lot of really good young defensive players. They may not miss him as much as he will help Philadelphia, because Philadelphia has defensive shortcomings as well, Plus, they're going to need more defense with Jalen Hurts probably being the quarterback. I don't know if he'll make it, but maybe he can adjust. He was a really good college quarterback, but in the NFL, it's different, And he didn't do well last year, so I don't know. I'd call that trade, or that even Steven, both sides. I think both teams got what they wanted.
I think so, and I remember hearing his name when Washington would play Dallas. He was a really good player. I think Washington is going to be okay on defense. They got the Rookie of the Year on defense.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're going to be okay. And as for Philadelphia, I'm not sure if they're going to start. Like you said, they're not going to start Hurts. But it seems like for right now, they're going to start Hurts until maybe like preseason, after all the games are played and their supposed backup shows something.
Yeah, he's I mean, it depends how he works. How much better he can get. He did play for Alabama, and he did very well for them. And then he went to OU, and he played really well for them, so.
A lot of Oklahoma players are really good. And then another player that was signed, and I guess he was a surprise, but not really, was in Jacksonville, Tim Tebow. What do you think of that?
There's a couple things with that. Tebow's a really good athlete. He played a couple years with the Mets in their minor leagues. Mm-hmm. He played at AAA level, but he didn't quite get up to the show. But he did okay, And then he, obviously he wants to go back to football, so he hasn't taken a football beating in a couple of years. And if you remember back when he was quarterback and stuff, and they were like, well, maybe not, but he'd make a great tight end because he's big and fast, and a lot of people talked about it, and I don't know if it ever entered his mind or if he wanted to really prove he could be a quarterback, but, he's 33, but I'm sure he keeps himself in great shape, and he hasn't taken, like I was trying to allude to before, he hasn't taken the football pounding for 3 or 4 years,
Yeah.
And Jacksonville, to me, it'd be a good place for him to start, I think Urban Meyer is a good coach, the other thing with that thing is, I don't know if you noticed or read, but a couple articles came up about all the people that support Colin Kaepernick. They're
Right.
all upset because Tebow said, I want to do this, and team jumped on him, but people also forget that the last 2 years of Kaepernick, he wasn't good. He had a first good few years of his career, and it looked like he was off and running, but then he just, he slid back. He wasn't good his last 2 years. So, and, now it's been 3 or 4 years since he's played. It doesn't mean he's going to sign on a team and be good,
Right.
and, we all know why, with the kneeling and everything. And I don't agree with that during a game, but everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah.
So I don't see, they're just picking at something. Tebow. And it was Colin Kaepernick going to play for 900,000? That's what Tebow signed for.
Right. And I even heard that it's, even though Jacksonville signed him, it's not necessarily guaranteed that he's going to play with Jacksonville.
Right.
But it sounds like they're going to give him a shot.
Yeah, he's still got to make the team, and as Cap would have to make a team if they gave him a chance,
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised some team hasn't taken a flyer on him, but who knows what it could be? It's been a couple of years, and I wouldn't say no if some team signed him. I'm like, and then if he did well, fine. If he didn't, fine. At least he was given a chance. But there, people will still cry that it wasn't fair. I am quite sure.
Right. Yeah. I
don't
mean,
want to bring any controversy in. What I mean, in stuff. But they're both 30-something-year-old athletes, and nobody cried when Tim Tebow went out to the Mets and tried to play baseball. He hadn't played since high school,
Right.
and
I mean, yeah. The one good thing, I guess, even though Tim Tebow is going to be tied in, and I think he'd be really good because of his, I guess, speed when he played baseball. But you could use him as an emergency quarterback because he has played the position. Or you could use him as like a wildcat per se.
I would say more of a wildcat, maybe tight end / fullback, like what the Cowboys did with Witten for a few years.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say quarterback because
It didn't work so well at the beginning.
yeah, he would just make a play, but like a wildcat might be an option. Another thing with him, he's a good dude, he's a religious guy, but I think he'd provide a good veteran leadership for like Trevor Lawrence, a young guy coming in, maybe not as far as the quarterback stuff, but how to play the pro game,
Yeah.
how to act, how to be, that could be, and Jacksonville probably is going to have a lot of young guys. And this is a guy that was in the NFL 7-8 years. He can tell them, well, this is what you do. This is what you don't do. This is how you act. be a good positive influence on them. Because to me, there's nothing negative about Tim Tebow.
No,
He just wasn't a very good quarterback.
right. And I think too was that because he knows Urban Meyer when he was in with Florida.
That's right. Yeah.
I think he can go to the players and go, okay, let me fill you in on some stuff. He's gonna do this. He might do that.
Hmm.
He might be a little mean or come off mean, but he's not. I don't know what you would say, but something like that.
Right. Yeah. So.
I mean, he can give them a heads up and kind of let them know.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Uh,
think he'd be a good influence on a young team. Couldn't hurt, and they got all training camp, and if he just can't play tight end, you know, the first thing is they got to block. Well, he's definitely big enough. He's like 6'5", 235, 240 or something like that. And so if he can at least block good in those schemes, probably okay. And if it turns out he has pretty good hands, that'd be a plus. He's not going to be their starting tight end. He'd be their like third tight end, in there.
right.
He could do things like, go in and do the wildcat, one or two plays a game, go in and be a fullback.
Yeah, he can get it down to red zone maybe, or maybe 1 to 2 yards.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely. He's a, you know,
I think he's going to be good. But
yeah.
one thing that is coming up in August, sometime in August, I would think the beginning, is the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and one of the, I guess, enshrinees going in, Drew Pearson, he already has his presenter lined up, and that is his fellow quarterback, Roger Staubach. And I think what I heard was this is his third time presenting one of his former players.
It's
or
quite
former
a team
teammates.
back then. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of Roger presenting Drew Pearson?
That's totally fitting. I mean, they were bread and butter together. I'm sad it took Drew so long to get in because the game back then was different. Guys didn't have 100 catches a year back then. Barely 1,000 yards would lead the league. And that was just the way the league was. It's 180 degrees now. It's a passing league. And but his numbers, in the 70s, he was on the all-decade team for the 70s, and his numbers are better than Lynn Swan's. Lynn Swan only had something like 280 some pass catches in his career, but his Super Bowl play prompted him up. And if you play good in a couple of Super Bowls and you win them, and you're a pretty good player anyway, that could put you in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And I think what matters too, like you're saying, Super Bowls. It seems like majority of Hall of Famers that get in do make it to the Super Bowl. But also back then, like you're saying, it was a different style of play. It was more, I guess, running the ball and more power football than it is passing and all of the passing stats.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of quarterbacks that back then, them guys all, even Roger, he could have thrown for 4,000 yards a year. They just didn't have it. It just wasn't the game they played. They had Tony Dorsett, and you had Drew Pearson, you had Leroy Jordan, you had other options, and you spread the ball around, but it was mainly a ground game, and and even Roger would take off and run a little bit,
right?
Roger the Dodger.
He was like first, I won't say first, but first that I can remember, like running the ball back in the 60s.
Yeah, well, that's why I became a Cowboys fan. I watched him at home in New York, and I became a fan. He was just so good, and I was barely a teenager, but we talked about him, being my friends and things, and they were good. He was good to watch, and the way he threw the ball. Tom Landry came up with reinventing the shotgun with him, because that had been done in early like 30s and 40s. It's a different way, and they went away from it. The NFL did, and well, they started it with Roger, and now it's everybody,
Yeah,
and it's looks like it's kind of something like it's here to stay.
and it is. It hadn't gone away,
No,
and I don't think it will. Maybe
yeah,
there's going to be different variations of it, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
yeah, it's a lot of things back then. Landry used to. You remember the offensive line when they went up to the line?
Oh
They
yeah,
would
they would
go
pop
down
up.
the ground and then stand up for a second and then go down to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
That was to hide the backfield, because sometimes the backs would switch positions a little bit, and maybe the defensive players uh, wouldn't notice. It was just to hide something. And I thought that was brilliant, and only the Cowboys did it. It's kind of their signature move,
Yeah, I think with Landry and then with also Roger Staubach or Pearson, they made a lot of I guess techniques or different ways of playing the game, which I wish more coaches would do now. And I mean, they did the Wildcat and different things, but I wish coaches would be more creative with play calling,
Yeah,
like Landry was.
yeah. He reinvented a lot of stuff, and he was right there with um, Lombardi
Mm-hmm.
and a couple other guys, that were just long time, and this is the way we're going to do it now, and they would come up with new things, because they had so much time in the league. It's like, well, we've tried this doesn't work. I know that, so I'm going to come up with something else, and that was a good thing. Now, of course, we're 40 years later, and we're running spread offenses, we're running shotguns, wildcats, you know, just all kinds of different things. Players in motion, all over the place. If you watch game from back then and till now, watch a game, it does look different.
It does.
Up until the snap of the ball. At the snap of the ball, then it kind of looks the same. A pass play is a pass play, but the guys where they move around and stuff, and especially on defense, I think it's more noticeable. But it's but getting back to the starting point,
Right. Yeah.
Roger, I'm sure he's totally proud to present the yellow jacket, the gold jacket to Drew, and Drew probably he didn't think twice about it.
No.
No. And I would imagine half the guys in them Cowboys teams back then, Roger would be the guy, even a defensive guy. It'd be Roger.
Mm-hmm. I would want Roger, if I was in that era playing or not, to have him, present. And I'm glad Drew finally got a chance to get in the Hall of Fame. I mean, he
should have been in like 10 years ago.
He should have been in 10 years ago. He should have been in last year or the year before.
Yeah, I mean, people are scratching their heads. I don't, and of course you've heard the stories. A Steelers bias.
I've heard that.
Every Steeler that was pretty good was in, and the Cowboys seem to have trouble.
Yeah, but I think too it's probably the committee where I mean, they're younger. They haven't seen the games, back then as much. And all they're really going off of is what people are saying about these players. And then they're like, well, I don't know. I mean, he sounds good. Until they watch the film or the tape or whatever they have. And then they can probably be like, okay, yeah, I can see why he is in. And it's always a challenge. And I just wish people could see players like Drew Pearson play.
Oh yeah,
Because I think that's also why it's hard to get in.
hmm Yeah. Well, most people know him from the Hail Mary, but I remember him making a lot of other catches. NFC playoff games against the Rams, against the 49ers. Cowboys are 2 scores down, 3 minutes left. Roger to Drew, hand off to Tony, Roger to Drew, touchdown. It was like they're 14 points down, 15 points down, but the game's not over yet.
Right.
With them 2 guys, it was like it's like now Brady in a Super Bowl game, down 27-3. It ain't over yet.
Pass to Gronk, Gronk, and or whoever else. But all in all, I'm glad Drew Pearson's finally in. He's going to join.
He totally deserved it.
And I think he's joining Jimmy Johnson and a couple other Cowboys because they're kind of combining last year's and this year's.
Yeah, that's right. They're doing a special deal and stuff. And,
yeah.
So who's played in the Hall of Fame game?
Cowboys and Steelers.
The Cowboys are doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. I didn't realize. I'm so locked in on the first game of the year with the Buccaneers, I can't think of anything else.
Right. No, they're gonna. They're kicking off the preseason in Canton. They were going to do it last year, but COVID.
Yeah.
But they're doing it this year.
I wonder how much Jerry had to do with that.
I don't know.
He'll do anything to get his team in the news.
Yeah, he will. But you mentioned it earlier. Cowboys are going to go down to Tampa Bay, face the Buccaneers. Which game? I know that game's one of them. But what other game for the first week are you looking forward to watching?
Well, that's a Thursday night game. I'll probably watch. I'll watch like Kansas City, whoever they're playing. Because they're one of the teams, and I'm kind of a 49ers fan a little bit. I like to watch them. I always like to watch the Broncos because I loved watching John Elway, and I just keep whenever I see that, if I ever moved to Denver, I'd always be a Cowboys fan first. Okay.
Right.
But I would quickly become a Broncos fan. I just like the uniform and the history and, watching Elway. Of course, I'm dating myself here because I'm talking about a bunch of old.
No, I remember Elway, and
yeah,
he was good. He went to a couple Super Bowls. I think won one and lost, or did he win one back-to-back?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. He did the back-to-back, and I'm good. Good way to retire. I want to see how the Steelers go. I guess Big Ben is still going, and they didn't draft a quarterback, which I thought they would. So I think they like Mason Rudolph. He hasn't shown much, and he's played some games, but when I hear Mason Rudolph now, I think of Garrett hitting him with a helmet.
I think I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he had a good college career, but Big Ben, he does get banged up a lot, but he plays. If he's out, he's really hurt. And when
Yeah.
he plays, he's still good. He's still got a strong arm. So, but I think he thought about retirement this year, stuff. And like another older quarterback, Aaron Rodgers,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on up there. We talked about this last time.
Right.
It's like he doesn't want to be there, and I don't know why. It's like he likes his teammates. He just doesn't like the front office, and it's like, why? So just keep away from the bosses. I mean, you're a millionaire.
Yeah. You're down the field. The bosses are, I don't know, somewhere in the stadium upstairs.
Unless they go out of their way to talk to him, or they're involved in meetings and they got to put in their 2 cents, because you don't really know. Because we hear a lot about Jerry here in Dallas because we're in Dallas, but
Yeah.
we're not in Green Bay, so we don't hear everything. You'd have to get somebody from Green Bay that on it every day to maybe write into us, or make some comments about it, because he's at the top of his game still.
He is.
We've got a championship caliber team.
I don't think he's going to play in Green Bay this year. I mean, maybe.
Seems like that, but somebody's going to have to give up a boatload to get him.
Yeah, I think I saw like 3 players being traded and 2 draft picks, being dealt. And
I saw one thing, and it might have been the 49ers. It was like the next 3 number 1s and a couple of number 2s and stuff like that. I'm like, don't do that, But if you win it, if you do that and you win a Super Bowl, it makes it worth it. You might be suffering for the next few years, but it's worth it,
Yeah, I mean, if he's not going to be released, I think he's going to be benched. I don't see him playing.
Yeah.
Either if he's retired, traded, or just sitting on the bench, unless Jordan Love or somebody else gets hurt.
Well, what he wants to do as well is it's not football.
Right.
He wants to be the Jeopardy host, which I think would be funny as everything.
Oh, yeah.
But you got to be real calm in that. You can't Saturday Night Live skit it.
No. And if he does get the Jeopardy gig, that's in California.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to be traded. So I think a California team, kind of like what they were saying in the draft, would probably pick him up.
Because they filmed Jeopardy in the off season or something like that. It wouldn't interfere with football.
No, and I think you shoot like, I don't know, 3 or 4 episodes a day.
Yeah, they just take like a month or something and just knock it out. Which,
I mean, he could do that still with Green Bay though.
Yeah, he could do it anywhere. You just fly or whatever, But there has been talk because of the California teams, he could go.
Yeah. No, as far as games I'm interested, probably depending on if it's on, Jaguars in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Because it looks like Trevor Lawrence is going to be Jaguar starting quarterback. You don't know what Houston's going to do with theirs and Deshaun Watson. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that whole thing, the way it's played out, I don't know. The guy that's bringing all these girls in, he's kind of a nutcase.
Yeah.
But he's got like 24 girls. But Deshaun is you never heard anything from him at all about anything. Nothing.
No.
And then all of a sudden 24.
Yeah.
in a few months, because this lawyer, and and they're not seeking to go to court; they're seeking to settle. They just want money, so they're not asking for $10 million; they're asking for like 500,000 or 600,000, something like that. But if he pays them, it's kind of like saying, "Yeah, I did it, so go away." But a guy like that, I think if nothing happened, I think I'd fight it. He's got money. It's
Yeah.
a weird situation, though.
He could have settled it, I guess, outside of court or
It
something.
just got out on social media.
Yeah. Which most stuff does, but.
Well, that lawyer put it out on social media. I don't know if he contacted him first and then said no, go away, and then he went on social media. I think that happened a little bit, so it was something like that. And then he had okay, I've got more, and I'm like, dude.
If I was watching, I'd be like, dude, why'd you do that? You want my career to be ruined?
Yeah, and for whatever reason, he doesn't like Houston either. I don't know. Maybe trade him to Green Bay for fun.
That'd be good. That'd funny, actually.
Well, they lost J.J. Watt, and man, I wish the Cowboys had picked him up. But
I was hoping.
They're not horrible. They could play 500, I think, and if they get lucky, win a couple more games, maybe get a wild card. But losing Deshaun Jackson, that hurts them.
Yeah.
And they got rid of Hopkins too. But I know they got a couple other really good players.
They did, and I think Hopkins and Watt both are in Arizona.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Kyler's the beneficiary there.
And I think Kyler's going to do good. He's improving a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Another game.
He doesn't get hurt. That's the thing. He's pretty nimble. He's hard to hit hard, because he's so quick, and he's got a strong arm. Even though he's not tall, but he does have I saw him play in high school games up here. The kid's got an arm. But you can tell he's smaller than everybody, and this was in high school. But he was throwing it 60 yards in the air in high school up here. And he's hard to get a hold of. Just like if he doesn't get hurt, I think he can be great.
Yeah, and a lot of people, even when Drew Brees was playing, kind of like what they're saying with Murray and even Wilson, that he was too short, he couldn't play in the NFL.
Right.
But that all of those quarterbacks proved, people wrong, and they're playing. Wilson won a Super Bowl. Drew Brees won a Super Bowl. I mean, he's going to win a Super Bowl at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know with who, but he might. One other game I'm interested in, too, is Cleveland facing Kansas City.
Ooh, that'd be interesting. 2 OU teammates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two teams playing in the playoffs last year.
And Cleveland's good. I think Baker found his niche as a quarterback. In college, it's chuck it all over the place, 350 yards every game. He for some reason, can't do that in the pros. But he still can move around. He can run. He can make things happen. And when he's not trying, he's got a good arm. When he makes good passes, so yeah, throw 225, 250 a game, 17 out of 24, something like that, and let Chubb and his wide receivers and tight end, rest of them carry the offense and stuff. And they, he got better as the year went on, so
yeah.
He's got playoff experience now, and I think he's a little more confident. I love it. I love his cockiness, and I love what he does and what he says.
Yeah.
you know. And so, yeah, you can be that bad guy, you know. You don't have to throw for 350 and 4 touchdowns to be the bad guy, you know. You got teammates that do that, you know, and I think he'll learn that, you know, just as long as he keeps on that same pace, you know, and the coach helps him out and everything. So I think he'll be good. And I just read Patrick surgery on his ankle went well. Everything's all good. And
Yeah.
and they picked up some O linemen in the draft, so they should be better. You know, Tampa Bay did them a favor.
Yeah.
Because they were getting by because Patrick could do so much stuff. But when you face a really good coordinated defense, it exposes your weakness, and it did.
What I think, like you said, that Super Bowl, and I'm sure representatives of all the teams or whatever saw the game, and they're like, Tampa Bay exposed Kansas City for what they can do. Now they got the playbook, so to speak, of how to beat Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
So now Mahomes is going to have to think of different tactics or different tricks, to kind of do what he normally does.
Well, that's what Andy Reid will do.
Yeah.
He's done it in the past, and he'll keep doing it.
I remember it was kind of funny. There's Kansas City schedule was being released, and they had Andy Reid up there, at different press conferences, and they're like, I'm excited to play Dallas. I'm excited to play, whoever, and they're just different parts of a press conference of him saying who their opponent was. They had clever ways of releasing their schedules.
Yeah, he's clever like
Yeah.
that. He'll give little digs and stuff too. He's a very confident guy, so
Yeah, I mean, that game's going to be good. I feel like Mayfield, I couldn't think of the name for a second. Mayfield, I feel like he's getting better.
yeah.
I feel like it took him a little while to get his, get everything going, and it's a different game to learn compared to in college. Whereas Mahomes, he kind of had to sit back and watch what Alex Smith was doing. Maybe that helped him out along the way. Whereas Baker Mayfield was just thrown in and kind of fed to the wolves, so to speak.
Yeah, it's he's got to
But
not be too controversial and
yeah.
So let me see here. So how do you think New Orleans is going to do without Breeze?
I don't know. I feel like Breeze took him to the top.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of hard when he was out. I mean, they did have two good quarterbacks in Watson and
Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
And they got Taysom Hill.
Yeah, Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
I think those two did good when they had to start. And Taysom Hill hadn't started at quarterback in a while.
Yeah.
But I thought he played well. If I were New Orleans, I'd go with
Winston.
Winston, yeah.
It might be maybe Sean Payton can get the good out of Winston without the bad.
Mm-hmm.
Plus he's got to maintain his composure off the field. He's obviously got talent, but when you have a 30 touchdown, 30 interception year, 30 touchdowns is great. but not 30 interceptions, you know.
No.
And I'd kind of like to see what Taysom Hill could do. He's been in the league a few years and he knows that system,
Yeah.
and well, how about giving him the reins, have Winston as backup, and if Taysom takes off, does well, fine. If he doesn't, maybe they, Peyton can work with Winston, him being the number two, work with him on the sidelines, maybe figure out what's wrong with him mechanically. Why does he throw so many interceptions, and things, get him better without being in game pressure, unless he's, needed, unless Hill just falls on his face. Because I think if you give him a shot, then Hill's got to start going, well, what the heck do I got to do to start around here?
Yeah.
In here, and, but he also does get to play because he lines up at tight end and stuff and, like that. So.
Yeah, but he's thinking, all I'm used as a gadget quarterback. All I'm doing is, trying to trick players and thinking I'm going to do one thing and really it's another. He wants to start, and I think he played in, 5 or 6 games. And he's like, okay, I can play quarterback. And I think he, like you said, he wants to start.
I think he needs a shot where he's the guy. When you come in and you play, you try not to let the team down because the starter's hurt and he's going to come back in a couple of weeks. So you try to take advantage, but you also don't want to try to overextend yourself, to try to prove you can throw for 300 yards and stuff, and then you make mistakes. They usually have a dumbed down or a less complicated game plan for the backup when they get him going, and it's more geared towards his abilities, So, I mean, they still, they got Kimura, they got Thomas, the offense is fine, and they got a good defense too.
I think defense is okay. Wide receiver is okay. Maybe running back and quarterback are the two I would focus on if I was in New Orleans.
Well, they got Kimura,
right?
But he does get nicked up sometimes. But he's kind of a 100% runner, so he doesn't, get hit and fall down. He tries more, and that's when you get hurt.
Well, and also too, you're playing 17 games.
Yeah, that'll be nothing.
Instead of 16.
Less preseason, right? Didn't they take a couple of preseason? What's preseason?
Yeah.
4?
Well, yeah, if you're in the Hall of Fame, it's 4, but if you're not, it's 3.
Yeah, okay. That's what it was.
So,
personally, I thought 3 preseason games is too much. Even I'd rather have 2.
Yeah, they should go to 2. But although last year, because we didn't have preseason, maybe we don't need any preseason. We should just do.
If you remember early in the year, though, a lot of guys were getting hurt.
That's true.
But it doesn't happen in college.
I was going to say, let's just do a spring game.
Yeah,
like one scrimmage game.
You don't want to hurt your own teams. I don't know. There's, and it's all about money. They don't want to get rid of games. Because, when you buy a ticket, you're buying for the preseason games too.
Yeah.
They're just as expensive as the regular season game. And, when there's 5 preseason games and 4, well, the starters hardly play the first 2 games. And then, like the third game, they'll play a lot. And then the last game, they'll play a little bit. So they hardly play. You're looking at your backup talent. Okay, it's good to evaluate, but you see them in practice every day. You could have what a lot of teams do, scrimmage against other teams during the week.
Yeah.
That way you get different talent out there. And a lot of teams like to do that. But it's, they added a 17th game, so they're not going to, NFL teams aren't going to lose money by cutting a spring season game. But now you got that weird, it's an odd number schedule, and that'll come into effect at some point.
Yeah.
You know,
And I think they're going to alternate conferences. Like the AFC, I think this year gets that extra home game. And then teams like the Cowboys and the NFC would get that next year's home game. Which is fair. I mean,
yeah,
alternating it.
yeah. I also think it wouldn't be bad. Let's say, cut another spring season game and add a playoff. Like have two extra wild cards or whatever. And
Yeah.
they play, and then they play for their division, and then conference, then Super Bowl. Another week of that. That wouldn't be bad. I don't know how they'd work that out. But you definitely would get some 7-9 teams or 7-10 teams in there. But
Would you like to
like
see.
hockey. If you play 500, you're in the playoffs.
Right. Would you like to see, I guess, the NFL use the play-in tournament like NBA does?
I think the idea is kind of cool. If you're a 10 seed, a 9 seed, it gives you one last shot, which is supposedly real close. The NBA would love it. It hasn't worked out because there was only one really good game, and they want the good games to get the viewership to make the money, because like one game, like 2.4 million or 1.4 million watched, and then the Lakers and the Warriors, it was like 3.8 or something like that. It was, if all the games were like that, then it would be a big success for the NBA.
Yeah.
That's the round thing, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, the March Madness uses kind of something like that. With the first four
Yeah, they
round.
They got the play-in game too.
Yeah.
From 64 to 68, and then they get to play. And that's a cool thing for colleges because there's so many colleges.
Right.
And you still got to be pretty good, to get invited.
And I mean, even though it's to make the playoffs, I still kind of call it a playoff game because you're still in it.
Yeah.
You're not done. I mean, there's a lot of things the NFL could do to make the game interesting. I'm not sure if a playoff or a playing game would be it.
No, it's just things, listening to the radio and the news. And, eventually we're going to go to this many games, and I think they're going to up it to 18 games anyway.
Yeah.
Next year or two. And hopefully that'll mean just 2 preseason games, because it does wear on the players. It's not like baseball and even basketball to a lesser extent. They play, but they don't slam into each other all the time.
No.
That's the thing. Every time you tackle somebody, every time you switch directions, that could be a ligament tear or something,
When they say like it's almost like a car wreck.
Oh yeah, it's a car wreck. You're if you ever watch that sports science show, it'll say it'll show what the body does when a 220-pound running back runs into a 245-pound linebacker, head on. The helmets, they're really developed to cushion a lot of blow and everything, and the pads and stuff. And of course, now they got to watch out how they tackle, which, the techniques are safer, but guys played for 15 years using one technique. Now they got to use another,
Yeah.
It used to be put your nose on the chest, now you can't do that, and that's, you have to wrap your arms, but then guys don't want to get hurt, so they just put the shoulder down and try to blow them up. And, that doesn't work a lot of times because the guy just bounces off and keeps running.
Yeah. You think they should get rid of the Pro Bowl?
Yeah, and it's because it's not even a game.
No.
I'm trying to figure out things they could do. I don't know, have a flag football game where they can do more running around and not hitting, but guys can still block and stuff like that. But people would go, oh, flag football, or
I mean,
you're named to the Pro Bowl. So, I mean, now do people, is the stands filled when they go out and watch? I know nobody watches it on TV, but if there was a Pro Bowl here, like here in Dallas, I'd try to go. Or I don't know what you do. Have some kind of skills competition.
No, they've tried that. Yeah.
It's I don't know what to do. To me, baseball's the best all-star type game.
Mm-hmm.
The NBA is popular, but it's no defense. They just run up and down and shoot and shoot and shoot. They make plays. Hockey kind of plays, but it's a little backed off because they don't want to get hurt.
Yeah, it's like a 3-on-3. Hockey's like a 3-on-3 or something like that.
Yeah, it's a scaled down version of it. Less hitting, but they still play skates full speed. But yeah, the football, it's like I think I watched like a quarter or a half a couple years ago. I'm like, God, the linemen just kind of stand there and just push each other to, nobody makes a hard move. It's like, okay, you can't even report on it good.
Well, I mean, I think they changed it to like it was because I think it was back in 2007. I think Lawrence Taylor got hit really hard. And I think they're like, we might need to back off just a little.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of scaled it down. And I used to like watching the Pro Bowl, but then, like when it was a full game.
Mm-hmm.
There was hitting, there was tackling, it looked like a full game. Now they just kind of scaled it back and like, okay, you're gonna play and the winning team gets this much money, loser gets this much money, and then they went to no AFC, NFC. It was kind of like Team Deion Sanders and Jerry Rice, teams.
Yeah,
I don't know.
NBA just did that for a few years, I think.
Yeah, it was like
still doing that.
It was like Team LeBron and Team someone else. I mean, that's fine for fans, but at least keep the actual game.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it's going to be an interesting football season. So.
Yeah, this year it sure will be. Games open up to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly, I think by the fall it'll be all 100%. Even like the NBA playoffs now, they've increased how many people can go to games. And I think for every series that goes on, they're going to let more and more go in. Baseball game is, I think out here it's at like 25%, so you get 12,000 people. So it sounds like a game, but that's going to go up too. Some stadiums are full auto, but
yeah, all the games are going to have full capacity. Mm-hmm. A lot of games here are slowly opening up. Even sports, that we don't normally see, I'm sure, are going to open up at some point. So, congratulations, fans! You're back in your seats for 2021.
Yeah,
and maybe the playoffs.
Hopefully our team's the playoffs, even though we're going to start 0-1.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I'll be surprised if Dallas does win the game.
I wouldn't be surprised because they've got the talent to do it. And but Brady is so good, and them guys are, and you got all the starters are returning, but maybe they aren't fired up 100% because they had the shortest off season of anybody. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, Tampa Bay didn't start out bad, but they were like 3-2 at one point, and then 4-3, and then they took off. Once Brady got used to them.
Right. Well, that's all I got. Thank you for joining me today. You got anything, final words before we get out?
Nope. Just waiting for training camp to come open, because that's where you get the juicy stories, especially here in Dallas. It's training camp headache.
Yeah.
Stuff every day, and I'm like, oh my God, I need this regular season to start. But you do get the little nuggets of the local players, a rookie that's doing good, and try to keep on other teams' websites and things to look and see how they're doing, what kind of players they may have that might surprise somebody. I always like to see how the top 10 draft picks do, as the season goes on, because you go 3 years and all of a sudden this guy was the number 3 pick in the NFL draft. I'm like, what? I never heard of him.
Yeah.
He never plays because he just wasn't good, but he got his money. So life.
Or you heard of the player and they're like, yeah, he got his 5th year option. It's like, he was drafted in the 1st round.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. And you look back like, oh, I guess he was.
Yeah. So. Well, all right, Chris.
All right. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll be back next week for another episode.
Okay.
All right, and have a great day, everyone.
All right. Have a good weekend.